Thank you, Dr. Shams, for joining us. Let's talk about the situation of rotavirus in Bangladesh and the introduction of vaccine in the region. I would like to know the current situation of rotavirus diarrhea in Bangladesh.
Well, rotavirus has always been there in Bangladesh. It's very common under 2 years of age. Children 2 years of age is a major cause of hospitalization in that age group. What has happened in Bangladesh is because with overall diarrhea mortality going down, in general, children in Bangladesh no longer die of diarrhea in large numbers. So, in that sense, rotavirus is not a major killer as is seen in many other countries, but it is still a major cause of hospitalization. So, a lot of costs to the health system, a lot of cost to the families. And I think and having a vaccine that prevents this makes sense. Makes very good sense. We haven't introduced the vaccine in Bangladesh to the public system yet, but the latest news that we have is that it is going to happen. I think the major challenge right now is supply from the producers. So, my understanding is that our application to Gavi was approved, and there is a choice of 3 different vaccines for 3 different companies. The government in February had a meeting and they agreed with one brand, one vaccine producer, which is GSK, and so it depends on GSK's ability to provide. It's large numbers for Bangladesh.
But since the mortality is not that high, is that a reason for delay or reluctance?
I think there was this initial period when it was not obvious to policymakers why there should be investment using public money for this. Remember, even with Gavi funding, it is not permanent. Eventually the government will have to pick up the costs. So I think there was some concern that given that diarrhea is not a big killer, rotavirus by definition then is not a big killer, why should the country invest in a vaccine that is not going to prevent mortality? But I think the case that we are making is that we will save more hospitalizations from rotavirus by having a vaccine than the vaccine does in the US. I think there was some analysis done by my colleague at Zaman, about a year and a half or 2 years back, that shows that comparison. And I think
the cost benefit analysis.
There was some cost benefit. There wasn't a cost benefit in the sense that there was an analysis of benefit that if you introduce the vaccine, what will you save in terms of hospitalization? Numbers you will prevent. And I think the numbers of hospitalization we will prevent in this country was larger than what is prevented in the US. So it's a substantial reduction in cost. Hospitalization means, the child is sick and the child is suffering. So that's one point. But there is a cost to the health system. The hospitals are picking up the cost, especially if this is a public system. And also there's a cost to the families, opportunity cost and a lot of other things. And then you don't want to see the child suffer.
I was wondering what we could do to emphasize the government about their commitment. Is there any gap, or do you think that we could do something?
I think looks like finally, the needle has moved and they have decided to introduce the vaccine. Is right now the issue with them is in terms of the particular product, which company, and are they able to provide the large numbers. There was a period, in addition to what I said, about whether or not whether the policymakers were, at what extent they were convinced that this should be a priority. There was also a period when there was some concerns about cold chain capacity. The introduction of rotavirus vaccines, because of its volume, this oral vaccine, my understanding is that it means, depending on which brand of vaccine we procure, means nearly doubling of the capacity, the cold chain capacity in EPI. It was not easy. So I think my sense is that the government has been interested. Finally, there were some struggles, for example, in the central space here as to where they will build this cold chain capacity space here. There was some back and forth about where exactly will this storage be built. I think those have been resolved. When I don't have the details, but I understand most of those. But it was an issue, at that point. So I think two issues. One is, the cold chain capacity, because of large volumes, and also, this sense that maybe because the diarrhea does not kill in Bangladesh anymore, why invest in something on a vaccine for that?
When it comes to a financial concern for a country like Bangladesh, do you think that if we could produce vaccines locally here, that would be beneficial?
It would be, but we have to be careful that we don't create a protected market, but then the quality of the product is nowhere near the global standard, because our children should be getting a vaccine which meets global standards. So yes, I think a local production, as we are now seeing with cholera, with the local company, it makes sense that some of our pharmaceutical companies are very good. They're doing very good work, and they are a major player not only in Bangladesh but many other countries. I think they have the technical capacity to get into biologicals like vaccines, but we will need to have the regulatory framework, especially the DGTA, up to that level where they can provide the support for biologicals. But also, they have to make sure that it's not a protected market where there's no competition with the global market. So I think that's important. Production. Another thing that we can do in countries like ours, if you look at the Bangladesh child, the cohort that is born every year who needs to be immunized, it is larger than the US birth cohort. So we talk about large numbers, and I can imagine like the countries, three countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, coming together and negotiating on their own with pharmaceutical companies globally to say, can we get vaccines at a certain price? I'm sure they can negotiate much better prices, that are good for these countries. So.
As a physician, what is your advice to the families to protect their children from rotavirus type?
It's the issue with rotavirus is that it can affect, even if you have the best of practices, you are very hygienic and everything else, it's a virus, it can still affect your child. It is a major reason for hospitalization in developed countries, and improvement in water and sanitation has not seen a reduction in rotavirus incidence, and we do not anticipate this will be seen here. So I think just because we think that we are washing our hands or being very careful to ensure that they will not be affected by the rotavirus, that's not a safe assumption. The risk is there. It's a virus that affects everybody, the rich and the poor equally.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.